Make sure that we are going live on Instagram too again. Again, we are live. Yep, Ed Nikki. Okay, very good, very good. All right. Half a day. Buenas. Half a day todo samzo. Inan husi Michael Luhan Bavakwa. If you are live streaming Fanachu, if you are listening to Fanachu, there is a very good chance that you are probably a fan of either Humanities Guåhan or the Northern Marianas Humanities Council. Because if you are a fan of Fanachu, even whether you are in the Marianas or whether you're in the diaspora, you are probably also a fan of great humanities work. You are a fan of critical dialogues. You are a fan of cultural preservation, language promotion, building up Micronesia, building up Micronesians. You are a fan of all of this important work that needs to be done, which means that even if you may not know much about the humanities councils in the Marianas, you probably are familiar with their work. You've seen it in social media, you've seen videos somewhere, you've seen the wonderful work that Humanities Guåhan here in Guåhan has done. And it's really sad to say, though, that just this month, we learned that because of sort of the slashing, the burning, the unfortunate sort of Doge-inspired activities that are happening in the federal government of the United States, humanities councils across the United States and its territories are under attack. They're having their budgets slashed. They're having grants that they just sent out to communities, for amazing projects, community-based projects, projects that bring funds to artists, to cultural practitioners, to scholars, art, small grants that bring money into local communities. These grants are being canceled, they're being clawed back, and they're being sent back to the place that doesn't really need that money, Washington, D.C. And so humanities councils like Humanities Guåhan are in jeopardy. And so we are here today with people who work for Humanities Guåhan to talk about why your voice matters. We're also here with some board members, past, current, will be joined by past and current board members from Humanities Guåhan to talk about the amazing work that they have done over 30 years here in the island, and even some of the amazing work that was being planned for this year, which unfortunately, just as the announcements were going out, the social media posts were going out, the letters were going out, the press releases were going out, the termination from the Trump administration announcements were going out as well. And so I'm very excited to have with me here, although it is a solemn occasion. I hate to say it because I feel it's solemn. It's one of those things. It's good to see you, but it's solemn. I feel like we should have corn soup. Like it's a rosary or something. It's a losodzu or something like that because it has that solemn, but it's good to see each other sort of vibe for it. But CJ, sort of, why don't you get this started? It's a critical time. It's a tough time for humanities councils. Why don't you sort of, I've given a little bit to get started, but why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then Nadine, go ahead and you can introduce yourself too, and then let's talk about the wonderful work that Humanities Guåhan has been doing.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you so much for having us here today. You have done so much great work with the council over the years, and it's been an honor to work with you and to be here today. My name is CJ Ochoko. I'm the executive director of Humanities Guåhan. My year anniversary was the same year our grants terminated, so I've been here for a year and a few days. Truly trial by fire. Yeah. Thank you for having us here, and I'll let the rest of the folks introduce themselves.
Of the day, Grand Bureau. My name is Nadine Semeni. I'm the program manager here at Humanities Guåhan. And I was just reflecting on how this summer would have been about 15 years that I've been here at the council. That includes the 1 year that I started as an intern for one of the Smithsonian projects that the council brought to Guam in 2009-10. So yeah, that's well, I was just reflecting on how it's a quarter of my life and older than my oldest child.
Oh, wow. No, Sidus Masi, to the two of you for, for coming at this time and then talking about the work of the council. And I know there's other people in the room. Ay, Gagi Guano, si Senor Underwood, Hungan.
Yeah,
Ay,
happy day, happy day. How we doing? Well, I want to congratulate CJ, Joko, and Nadine for hanging in there. This is a very bitter reality that we're having to deal with. The whole idea of the Humanities Council is to bring to the surface the expressions of our humanity, and to try to choke that off is not just disrespectful to a few projects, but it's disrespectful to the notion that we bring out our best as human beings when we're allowed to express ourselves and the multifaceted nature of our existence. And certainly, I was in the original, as was Narissa. Narissa was also board member in the first Humanities Council, and we didn't realize at the time how significant and how important it was. And in a way, it's sort of sad that the last project that was authorized by the National Endowment for the Humanities under the previous Trump administration was actually the project that I led on interviewing Vietnam veterans in Chamorro. And that was such a watershed project for me personally, as well as for the veterans themselves. And it's, of course, it's now achieved a certain kind of national attention through the Veterans History Project and at the Library of Congress. But it really, as I think about the nature of the human experience here on Guam, whether we're talking about fellow islanders or immigrants or traditional Chamorro practices, or just being able to express yourself in the beauty of who you are as individuals and the backgrounds that you bring to it, because nothing promotes human understanding more than the human experience. And when we devote ourselves to that, we not only allow others to speak up, we become better. We become better at who we are. And and when you speak of that, it seems so commonsensical that you just find it really dispiriting that you have a new administration who doesn't just want to choke off projects, but who provide evidence that they are not interested in our humanity, that they're not interested uh, in our human experiences, and that is reflected across the board. So this is a statement about our values as a people and our values as a society. And I know there's many, many others who have been involved with it through the years, but I just wanted to have that opportunity to express that and express my admiration to those who continue to struggle and let me know whatever it is you think I can do, other than just offer support, but we'll continue to struggle on. Thank you so much. And thank you for all of the dozens of projects over the years and all the people who have worked in this and people who worked at it together, whether they were different or same political party or not the political, none of that mattered when you were in the midst of this endeavor. And so thank you all, thank all of you. Thank all of you. Thank you for the opportunity to say a few words.
No, Jesus Masi, Señor. And CJ, do you want to bring in some of your other guests and some of your other board members to please share?
Yes, yes, we have thank you, Dr. Underwood, who is our one of our founding board members for all the work you've done. And today we have three of our current board members. So I'll start with our board chair, Alfrey.
Hi, half a day, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity to share the good work that pioneers like Dr. Underwood and our founding members of the Guam Humanities Council, now Humanities Guåhan. Thank you for this opportunity to share with you a little bit about what we've been doing over the years, the good work that we've been bringing to the community, and just our recent heartbreak with the situation as it is. I just jumped on a little late, and I apologize, but I heard Dr. Underwood's closing remarks, and it's our humanity should be a priority. The fact that it's not is dangerous, and it's yeah, quite scary times. So we thank you, Dr. Bavacqua, for this opportunity to come on and just share a little bit and reach out to our community. We are resilient islanders, as always. We have ways of coming together and supporting one another, and we look to that resilience to help us navigate these rough waters ahead.
Oh, Jesus Masi. And CJ, I see a few more people. If you want to go ahead and bring them in too, if they'd like to speak.
We have Kathleen Lynn Moore here and Larry Regatal. I don't know if you guys are in a place where you can speak, but if you'd like to hop on and introduce yourself.
Sure. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for taking the time, Dr. Bavacqua, for kind of hosting this live discussion. I think for me, the most shocking thing about the current situation is the clawback of the funds that had been awarded for this year. And even if we had been allowed to have this year's funding, it would have been a lot more humane, because then there would have been a lot more lead time for employees and projects and trying to wrap things up. And now we're at the point where, look, it's going to be 6 weeks. And, you might, if you were somebody who was on the far right, think, okay, who cares? Who cares about the humanities and these important stories that we're telling? But what happens is when you have something like Humanities Guåhan, and then we cannot make our lease payments, our rent payments for the month, then that affects the private sector. And that affects that owner of the building, and then his finances, and so on and so forth. So it does have a snowball effect, and that's just on the financial side of things. I want to, give a shout out to CJ and the board chair for really being resilient. Yes, I agree with that, and to find ways that we can do what we can do while we have our last remaining funds. And in fact, there's a whole program that's been prepared to see, what kind of fundraising we can do in the interim, to see what kinds of programs and maybe even employees that we can continue supporting beyond, let's say May, June. So again, thank you. I'm a relatively new board member, just joined last October, so here for all the fun. And again, I just want to say thank you to the professionalism of CJ, of the rest of the board, and the employees and longtime employees like Nadine. So thank you.
Buenas and half a day. So Larry Regatal, I'm like Catherine, new on the board. I'm actually just coming in to stand and give support to CJ and Nadine and our team, our chair. I'm I don't know. I don't know what to say except that I thought we were just starting off on a good voyage, but here we are. And if I could offer, I wholeheartedly stand and echoed everything that has been shared by both Nadine, CJ, and the board, and Dr. Underwood for your wise words, of course, of as a founding member. I don't know what to say or share, except maybe to share some words in the area of expertise that I pretend or claim to be in the seafaring and the culture of canoes. Sometimes out there it gets pretty tough, rough oceans are pretty overcast, and anything could happen, including broken parts of your canoes. One in particular that I think of as a way of maybe providing some analogies to this situation is that if your canoe outrigger arm, one of them is broken off, as in the case of this funding stream from the federal government being broken off, the wisdom of our ancestors has always been that we reinforce the working one before we attempt to fix and repair the broken one. Partially because the working one is taking on the loads of the other one, the compromised. And so I think everything that has been shared with board members and with the staff and now in this platform indicates that there is a crucial need for that resiliency and that community support and Guam to come together and this region. Trump is going to be Trump, but I think we need to do the best we can to stand in solidarity and support, as Dr. Underwood puts it, the best of who we are as human beings. Reinforce that. I think time will come when we jump to the broken arm and repair it. So that's all I wanted to add into this discussion this afternoon. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
No, Sidus Masino Hamzo Todos, thank you to all of you. And I wanted to highlight for everyone who is watching, and please, if you have any questions or comments, I see some people that are tuning in from the Northern Marianas, from Guam, and from the diaspora. So wherever you're at, if you have questions, if you have comments, I'll post, as we're going through the episode, the conversation, I'll post some links to some news articles or news coverage about the issue. And I also want to get us started, though, by just sharing and to because we want to talk about some of the things that losing Humanities Guåhan, losing the wonderful work, what it means, right? Because sometimes when people say, "Oh, losing humanities, what does that mean?" Right? And they may not make the connection about the wonderful work that is being done. And so that's why it's important for us. And I'm glad that CJ, Nadine, you're here to talk about it, because you've been sharing on social media examples of what it means in terms of to lose the work of Humanities Guåhan, given the past work um, that the council has been doing, but also then what it means for the future, that if Humanities Guåhan isn't here, if it's not funded, then it means that this work, who's going to do this work in the future, right? Because for 30 plus years, the Guam Humanities Council, Humanities Guåhan, has been here providing these small grants, providing the support for nonprofits, getting scholars engaged with the community, you know, supporting critical efforts for stuff, for conversations that need to be had. Who's going to do it? Who's going to do it if Humanities Guåhan isn't out there doing it? And so this out of the posts that you all have been putting out there, this was particularly important because as I was looking at this, I was reminded about this is why I love working with Humanities Guåhan, because all of these things are all of the projects mentioned here, these are things that everyone in the community is always talking about how we need more of them. And I say this from not just Chamorros, but every ethnicity. Every ethnicity talks about how, you know, the next generation doesn't know the culture or the identity and this and that, or we're losing something. There needs to be more dialogue, more understanding, more this and that. And when I was looking at this, it would just put it out very clearly that Humanities Guåhan in so many different ways, through supporting scholars, through supporting nonprofits, artists, that you have been doing that work. And so I want to give you a chance now to kind of talk about the work that you've been doing. And so CJ or Nadine, whoever wants to go.
Love for Nadine to start, you know, as the one who's been here the longest. And Nadine is also our programs manager and has really been the heart of the programming. So Nadine, please, you can start and I'll tag along after.
Why don't, thank you, CJ. I actually also would even defer to Elfrey, who I think has a really interesting relationship to HG, because she started, I think, either, if not a consumer of the humanities program, but a grantee, and how that kind of kept evolving all the way to this point where she's a board member and our board chair. And so I would defer to Elfrey if she'd like to share that aspect of community grants. Again, another example of how funding that we get from this DC gets channeled into pocket communities, and then we not only provide financial support, but we're also there celebrating with them their work. And so I would start there if you'd like to, Elfrey, and then I can continue on with some of our current stuff.
As Nadine brings in our cultural ways in doing things and offers it to the Manamko in the mix. Thank you, Nadine.
In our young Manamko.
But yeah, I got on board way back in the early 2000s, really as there was a project on my culture, my Guam, I think it was. I was asked for to participate with photos of my first birth ceremony. And so I just volunteered that. And then through my work with Palawan nonprofits, particularly the Peleliu Club of Guam, one of the longest Palawan village clubs that became a state club. We did one of the Moms Museum on Main Street sites exhibit called New Harmonies. And we did a collaborative exhibit on Palawan song and dance. And as a grant, we got that as a grant, and then just kind of volunteered for little projects here and there. And then all of a sudden I dove in hook, line, and sinker, and I've been involved since maybe just a little before Nadine came on board. But yeah, truly believe I've rotated on and off several times because I'm just such a believer of the work that the humanities has brought to our community. So valuable. We've seen it kind of evolve over the years so that our cross-cultural understanding has been a focus. Intergenerational conversations and focus has kind of expanded, really looking at some of the more challenging issues that have faced our community, our how we've navigated the militarization of Guam and how different communities feel about that, and just giving voice to a lot of what could be contentious issues, but giving space for dialogue and conversations to take place so that understanding is the core of what comes out of the process, you know, and these are important. Our family literacy program, the only one on this island, has been longstanding. I think we're the last in the nation. Mother Reed evolved and then disappeared, and we've kept it and taken it and recreated it to fit Guam and the communities on Guam. I'm very proud of what Nadine has done. Jump in, Nay, about what you've done with Mother Reed. That's kind of one of our big success stories. And it's not just family. We're reaching out to so many of our challenged communities and bringing literacy to those lives, you know, and the importance of that.
Yeah, totally, definitely. Thank you, Elfrida. And that was one of the very first second project I was involved with when I started here at Humanities Guåhan, for a component of the project that brought me to Guam Humanities Council, or Humanities Guåhan, the Mother Reed, Father Reed Family Literacy Program. And when I was trained in 2011, because I was I was trained just a few days before I had my first daughter, and so I should remember that. But it was a wonderful, and that's why I think we continue to hold on to that program. It really was a wonderfully designed community-based program where it looks at the strengths of our participants, of our families, our participants, who a lot of them are stay-at-home moms or folks that are incarcerated. We still have that relationship with the Department of Corrections, just different folks across the island that we've worked with. But again, we're centering on the strengths that those participants bring so that we can expand on those strengths and then connect them to the stories. And the story just becomes a vehicle to look at other topics and themes. But again, at the heart of it is the people that are responding to the stories, and then everyone being able to relate to that and continue on that dialogue and then learn from each other. So even though the facilitators are there to teach, we end up, it's such a mutually beneficial space where we're learning and teaching together. And I think that's why it was so easy to evolve it to our Exploring Micronesia program, where now let's take these stories that sometimes are not necessarily published in books, but that they're just as valuable to listen and learn from, and to explore what those traditions and values and perspectives are based on whoever's sharing the story. That's also how I connected with Larry. I want through that particular program where we focused on a legend from the island, from his island and his people, and just being able to workshop with elders and traditional practitioners to design what kind of curriculum, again, another community-based curriculum to share, to use and connect with other participants. And it just keeps, again, there's that ripple effect in that process. And I cannot, it's a very near and dear program for me. And we definitely try to partner with different organizations and institutions here in Guam. And I'm really happy to say we just had kicked off a Mother Reed cycle with the Catholic Social Service, specifically the Ali Shelter. And just yesterday, we did a book on the Invisible Hunters, and part of the prompt was, what is a tradition that was so unique that you're very proud of from your culture? And then everyone shared, and I was able to help. We all saw together how, while they were in different ways, the central focus of those traditions was coming together and sharing, whether by food, music, holidays, and whatnot. And then we dove into the book. It was a bit intense story, but we dove into the book and made these other connections, and was able to parallel what's going on. Like, well, what happens when we lose access to those things that make us who we are? And so the ending activity was, well, how can you preserve it, or how can you safeguard it? And so while that was maybe intentional because of what's been going on with us here at the council, I think it was a really perfect time to reflect, like, I love this work. And yeah, it's a great way that we continue to give voice to people. And then we're learning ourselves, like Dr. Underwood said, like it allows us to be better humans and just be better people in the community. So yeah, sorry, that was not meant, but it was just yesterday. And we're supposed to start our next cycle at Department of Correction, and we've just started our we just kicked off our conversation project with them, and it's been an interesting, I think, process, because again, we're the structure of the correctional facility, you're kind of detached from the community. And so we like to bring in literature that sometimes allows them to explore what it means, and then find the implications of what those themes are. And then we say, oh, well, how does this affect you, and how can this help you in your integration back to the community? So I think that's a very valuable process that we are allowed to adapt, so that everyone has that chance to find their connection, make meaning, and then apply it to their lives. And then again, continue that ripple effect that people can benefit from. Sorry, but yeah, that's one of the many great things we do.
I think
Yeah. I wear my emotions on my sleeve too. So I tear a lot and I start getting my shaky voice. But Dr. Bavakwa, you've helped us several times, I think, facilitate really valuable conversations as well, you know, and not just using literature or poetry. We've used video, vignettes with different groups of students and different groups of people to kind of, just shed light on maybe even cultural practices. I remember one we did. I think, did we do the one on Lantano Zantas, right? Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Kentusi, speaking to water. See, all of these project titles start getting jumbled in my
Oh,
head, but
Meg,
I think we
Meg
did a
and I,
series.
there's so many. Like it's even just like the work that I've done with the council, with Humanities Guåhan over like the past 16 years, I was trying to like just because I was thinking, oh, what do I want to talk about in terms of the stuff that I've done? And it was already too long. I was already having trouble narrowing it down because um yeah, Humanities Guåhan does so much. And for me, what's powerful is that a lot of it is just work that it needs to be done, and and a lot of people know that it needs to be done, but it's the work that everyone knows, but they don't want to do it, or they don't know how to do it, or they're not sure. Like I remember and the thing though is because Nadine, for example, we she took me twice, once to DOC to do civic reflection with inmates there, and then once to do civic reflections with DYAU.
Mm.
And so, and I had done many community conversations and civic reflections with a lot of different groups, but kind of being in a room with people who have gone through the criminal justice system, like that was, and then kids, incarcerated youth, um, going through rehabilitation, and then being in that position, it's like everyone talks about these people, everyone talks about these kids, everyone has ideas about them, but then few people want to actually do something. I mean, there's even billboards that tell us what we should feel and think about them, but few people want to actually do something to encourage, inspire, to work, to kind of to get these people to think. And the thing is, for example, people from DOC, when we went there for years after we went and did those civic reflections, I would still run into some of those people after they were out of the system, and some of them were very emotional, even to see me that because it was like the first time that anyone seemed sincerely interested in what they thought about something that was intellectual.
Yeah.
That we actually seemed to care what they thought about like a reading or a poem. That school, no one really seemed to care. In DOC, no one seemed to care. In their family, no one seemed to care. And then the idea that me and Nadine were there and that we had given them something to read, and that like we wanted to hear what they had to think, and that like there was one person who I saw him like he ended up being working, I think, as a hairdresser at, and he saw me and he was like, I was so surprised because I thought you were just bullshitting me when you said you wanted to know what I thought. And I'm like, no, I want to know I already know what I think. I don't care about what I think. I'm there to hear what you have to think. And so I'm much more interested because you have a completely different life. When you read it, you will bring so much more to it than me. So, you read it, you share it, you should speak and you should think and you should share more. And it was yeah, it was like, so for me, it was just like an important reminder. And it goes back to what Dr. Underwood said, like humanities and the human. It is very easy to think about people that are in systems like that they are just there to be, to be talked about how they're ruining things, or how they're messing things up, or how they've messed up, or how they're tearing the island apart, or their statistics, or this or that. And people do that all the time. People do that on social media. Politicians do that. People do that all the time. But like I appreciated the opportunity to just be there and be part of something where, we got to encourage and inspire them. And from what even I remember when we were with the DYA youth, and it was almost entirely Chuukese youth, and they felt, and it was very interesting because like one of the kids like basically told me, like he was like, yeah, like so Chuukese and Chamorro were like, we're kind of in the same boat, right? And I'm like, yeah, we face similar things, right? Because Chamorros, we have questions about who we are, just like you have questions about who you are, right? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah. See, so we shouldn't. And it was like, that's why. So that's what I've always loved about Humanities Guåhan, is like it brings those conversations, because if you don't have those conversations in thoughtful, in good ways, in positive ways, where people care, then what you have is people yelling at each other, people judging each other, people hating each other, and you have whatever people are currently commenting on Facebook, or on TikTok or something like that. That's what you have instead. And what the world needs is more thoughtful spaces in which people are encouraged to think, to be open, to share, to dialogue. And that's what Humanities Guåhan brings. So that's why, like, I was, for all the things that that Humanities Guåhan has asked me to be a part of, those two programs in particular were very important to me, to get out of my own perspective, and to just to help, to just push my own understanding of our community.
Yeah.
So who agradece, I appreciate that.
I can also add to, like, even again, like while we're in that position of, in terms of being facilitators, for me, because I, like you, like really take away from that experience, like I'm humbled by it. Like I'm always like, it becomes something that makes me try to be better, or not, if not necessarily better, but like extra conscious, extra considerate. And I think that's part of the process, and the being very conscious of that, and being creating space for empathy with each other, to allow folks to express, and then being able to receive it, and speak to it. And that's what we like to always say at our conversation is we're not going to be able to solve something today, but the idea is that you walk away with more profound understanding or something you can take away for yourself, and that it could be something useful to you at some point in your life. And so I think that's something I also definitely appreciate. And then all aspects of our program really fosters that. And so like another thing that we've done for many years before are these interpretive exhibitions, and they're very multifaceted approach. So there's the exhibition development where we find scholars and artists, traditional practitioners to consult and contract with to develop content. And then from that content development, then there's a design aspect. So we work with other artists, mostly local or majority local, work with the artists for the design component, and then support local businesses by contracting with them to print those exhibitions. Even when we receive those Smithsonian physical objects, specifically those the infrastructure of the Smithsonian exhibition, once they expired, we were able to tear off the content there and recycle the infrastructure. So that's something that I learned with our former director, where she was Dr. Kimberly Keeling, and that was my first exposure to that kind of work. Like, okay, we're not just convening, but there's all this work that's involved. There's all these multi-faceted, multi-dimensional components to building this up, this material or this content. And then when we bring it out there, it's also developing a very thoughtful program so that it allows for folks to listen and consume whatever the information is or the knowledge being shared, and then allow them to interpret on their own. But then we structured certain programs so that it again facilitates dialogue. So there's so many moving pieces to the kind of work that we do. So it's again content development, being able to support artists and amazing artists, scholars here, and then support businesses by getting our work produced. And then from that, we're partnering with institutions like the Guam Museum. I know we've done exhibitions at the Guam Community College. We went to the mall, we toured an exhibition in the malls, we went to the high schools. We would like set up these big structures of exhibition every week. There was a period of time we were moving from school to school every week. Just to again bring the content out there, and then develop thoughtful programming that we thought could be useful to the community to be exposed to and to respond to, and that we were there to help facilitate the space in that response and dialoguing. And so there's all that part, and then on top of that, the former program officers that I've worked under and I've learned a lot from, they would develop these curriculum for the teacher. So it's not just like, here's a material we put together, here you go. It's like, here it is, here's some materials to go with this exhibition to complement it. We have funding to also do workshops, teacher workshops specifically for this material. So we also try to be very thoughtful in that approach. And I think that's why it can get we get kind of lost, like where we're involved. It's all those pieces that we try to find different ways to support, again, development to implementation, and then expanding it to reach to the schools, and then not just giving it to the schools, but working with the teachers to access the materials, and then also give funding, grant funding for community members to develop their own projects that they feel was most needed for their community, and then supporting that process to connect to the humanities, which we just know like always adds that dimension, layer of, there's just so many things, but just be able to provide that technical support, especially our grants manager, providing that one-to-one dialogue with these potential grantees, and supporting their whole process with their grant. Like we do that. Like we're not just like, here's your grant, do it, but we're here to help really shape it, and then we're here for other technical support. So yeah, so there's just so many things.
even just understanding our physical space. I remember one of the first challenges thrown at me was just a friend of mine, a high school friend of mine. You might know her, Rosanna Barcinas. She was like, Elfrey, have you seen the squatters in Agana? I'm like, what squatters? She goes, you could see it from Sinhanya and from Agana Heights, especially like where, you know, Dr. Souter lives and where the Archbishop's residence is. You could see all of these shacks, you know, um, past the mayor's office. I was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, Rosanna, are you talking about the wetland area behind there? Those are all Palauan women taro patching. And those are taro patch huts. So through Humanities Guåhan, we had several field trips taking different groups of people. And we brought Craig Santos Perez. Did we bring Craig there when he visited that time he came? Just to for people to understand land and land use and our connections to land. And it was great. We had our aunties there showing how that land is used and why that is the only use for it. We can't develop on wetlands here on Guam, you know? And so finding a way for sustainable food production for our people is the way to do it. And had to explain to a whole group of friends after Rosanna had shared that there were squatters in Agana, that they weren't squatting. They were actually growing food and sustaining families and extended villages, you know, with the food crops there. And interesting how they do shape the land there with the waterways that they help irrigate the different plots of land and how they shield the patches from the the wild pigs and how they can fish for shrimp and eel and all of that stuff. That makes me a little bit heebie-jeebie with eels, but yeah, just a lot of our people don't understand. A lot of people on Guam don't understand how that kind of subsistence farm agriculture um, style is used. And so through HG, we were able to reach so many people, take people on field trips. We took students through our Taking Root project, one of our most successful and award-winning humanities award-winning projects was Taking Root. Nadine worked with a wonderful group of people to build this awesome program for youth in our middle to high school. Was it middle school at first,
Middle school.
right? Yeah,
Middle school.
from all over Guam, from north, central, south. And it was cultural, it was geographical, it was we brought them everywhere and they were exposed to so many things. And Neg, jump in and explain what Taking Root was. That won the Schwartz Prize, Humanities Prize at the National Humanities Conference in Hawaii in 2019.
19.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks. Well, yeah, that was a project really spearheaded by the former ED and former program manager called Taking Root, Growing Youth Empowerment for Island Sustainability. And that was again coming off of another project prior to that called Itano Zanitasi, Guam's ecological, it's a longer title, but we're looking at Guam's ecological landscape. And just everything, and because it's natural for us islanders, like, but at the same time, sometimes not realizing and taking for granted what's behind us, this space kind of forced us to confront those issues of land and sea and what that means, how that supplies us and how do we shape that or affect it. And so yes, in 2018-19, we had the summer camp with the public middle school students. We had about 30, and it was a very intentional process in trying to recruit across the school and be representative of the different islands in greater Micronesia. And again, at our capacity was the 30, but it was our first pilot big scale summer camp where we wanted to look at both the environmental and cultural aspect of our island and how those two intersect, and where youth has a big role in protecting both culture and the land, and yeah, exposing them to the different environments of Guam and where we can make parallels with the rest of Micronesia. we had kids who are of other ethnicities or heritage but had never been, and so being able to bring them to different spots in Guam, like the taro patch, where we can say there are these taro patches across other islands in Micronesia. They're not only a staple in our diet, but also an important value of your important value that people had before money was introduced, that kind of currency. So doing that, and then getting people like Elfrey and her auntie to be our tour lead to speak to the technical part, but also the historical and traditional aspects of that knowledge. And then we had some pounding breadfruit demonstration, just different ways we can add dimensions to the experience. And then kids got to try pounding the breadfruit and taro, and then getting them to eat, and then going back to our main campus with at Guam Community College through another strong partnership that we had, where they got to listen to and we had many scholars and teachers involved in that big scale summer camp, but we had Paul Kerner, Chef Paul Kerner from GCC, to also, with him and Peter Duenas from Mescla, also give the Chamorro context of food preparation of taro and other dishes, and just being able to continue to get kids to be exposed and see the similarities and compare them, and then be able to interpret that with each other, and again adding to that knowledge building and appreciation, and that was part of it, is for youth to have a deeper appreciation about our land and culture, and their roles in perpetuating that. And so the second part of that summer camp was for the kids to decide on a community action project that they would implement. So it was a youth-led action plan that HG was there to support, whether it was one of the kids applied for a Matson grant and got the $500 community grant to purchase supplies for their cleanups that they wanted to do across the Paget area. Different things. And so as the kids were doing their projects, we weren't just having them prepare what cleanups it was, or besides just planning the technical and scientific part of their project, we also wanted them to do research on how culture is. We wanted them to do research and definitely incorporate culture into their project. So again, it's multi-dimensional as well. And from that, then we wanted to also celebrate these kids that did all the work by hosting a youth sustainability conference, so that they would present their projects in front of their peers, and that we would design with them interactive activities at the tables at the conference, so that the kids can speak with one another and hear firsthand from the kids, or work with our participants to learn about their experience. And then we had a sustainability fair in the outside, where we had a lot of the same partners that helped us with the field trips that were there. There was the Department of Agriculture, Center for Island Sustainability, everybody you could think of on the scientific side. We wanted as many as was available to us. We made sure to incorporate, and that's why it was a very, very ambitious project, but we survived it, and we're very proud of it. And then we also had some of our participants who were cultural artisans, and they had some of their work that they wanted to showcase. So just being able to give that space, and then also be very again, just in space, I know I'm just throwing it around here a lot, but intentional spaces for different folks to be part of, to be involved, and to be proud of it together, I guess. So that's again another one project that we did get the Schwartz Award back in 2019. And then we were able to do a second iteration in 2020 with the Governor's Youth Grant here in Guåhan. And so that was very helpful, but also challenging, because it was right after the pandemic. And so that was another challenging layer to the process. But again, because we, like you say, Delphi, we are resilient people. We wanted to still give justice to the program. And I also noticed we did a lot of we actually also added in conversation, our conversation model to the field trip. And so some of the kids, they were like, wow, this feels like therapy. Like some 7th, 8th grader, like, okay, they kind of, they're familiar with the word and what it's supposed to do. So I think that's what a word that they were able to grasp and like say how it felt like. And so there were folks that got emotional, like sharing from our interns to our kids, and just, yeah. And then a takeaway also, a great friend who was our education specialist for science at the thing, like just was a wonderful addition to our summer camp, where she brought so much, of course, made learning fun, the science learning fun, but I think because she's also not from here, from necessarily Guam, but she's been here so long, I think being able to work with multicultural students as well was, I think, something I was proud of in helping facilitate here at the council. So I think there's just so many ways that we try to be thoughtful in the approach, and sometimes where we can make mistakes. And I think that we continue to learn, and grateful for all the partners that have, supported us throughout the years to do better. And there's certainly many ways to do better, but definitely we've been grateful for all of that. I think I said too much now.
Oh, no. Let me just share, let me just I want to put up the website real fast, because when you look at the website, you'll get to see some images and information on Taking Root and some of the other wonderful programs that Humanities Guåhan has done in the past. And that was Taking Root, I remember that was an amazing program, because it's really, there's summer programs, there's all these recreational programs that we have on the island, but after how many generations of summer programs, of programs where you kind of you park your kids for the summer, like, how long did it take before somebody finally said, you know what, can we do one of these where the kids just don't do all of the random stuff that kids in the States do? And like finally Humanities Guåhan did it and said, like, why don't we do one where they actually connect with the island that we live on, instead of pretending that they live in San Diego, California, or Las Vegas, or like St. Paul, Minnesota. Well, not really St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm trying to think of warmer places, more southern places. But anyways, and so, but yes, that you definitely deserve accolades for that. But please check out the website for humanitiesguahan.org. You will find more information on all of the wonderful stuff that Humanities Guåhan has been doing. And oh my goodness, see, there's a picture of me. And so, and then you can also find information on, because I want to, before we're getting close to, these episodes are 1 hour, but we can definitely go over, because I also want to give CJ, or if you want to take over for this part, just a chance to talk about how people can voice their support, how they can show their support for Humanities Guåhan, because I see there's on social media, on the website, you've put out information on who they can talk to, they can send emails, they can make calls. And so I want to give an opportunity. They can make donations, because I see here that Humanities Guåhan just received a donation from Matson to support programming this year, and that's wonderful. And so, CJ, if you want to talk a little bit about how people can let their voice matter, let their voice be heard, and make clear to our leaders here, and hopefully to not really our leaders, but the leaders 10,000 miles away, who make decisions that we don't vote for, and we unfortunately don't get to democratically influence necessarily. How can we make it count for this?
Absolutely. Thank you again so much for having us, and thank you to Nadine, Elfrey, Larry. Kathleen and Dr. Underwood for being here today as well to share the great work the council has been doing for the last 33 years. And we really are so grateful for the community support for these last 33 years and even just in these last couple of weeks. As we continue to fight the fight and stay resilient, we could use all the support we can get. If you are able to, or you know a business or someone who might be able to, any donation at all helps. We right now can take donations through check or card. You can give us a call. Our information's on the website, but we will soon actually be launching a donor website where you can subscribe to donate $5 a month, less than you pay for Netflix. You can help keep our lights on and keep our programming going. We know it's hard times for everyone though, so aside from donations, like you were saying, Dr. Bavacqua, calls and emails to our legislatures to show them that the community supports us are great. I know you mentioned there's some folks in the diaspora who are maybe watching right now and will watch later. You can call your congressman because we're not the only council affected. All 56 state and territory councils have had their grant funding canceled. And so every voice counts, whether you're here on Guam, the NMI, or in the States. And we're so grateful for folks like Matson for their generous donation that will help keep us alive a little bit longer. So any support counts. And at the very least, if you can share, we'll be launching so much more of the history of HG and the impacts on our social media soon. So even just to share helps. And thank you again for having us.
Oh no, my pleasure. My pleasure. I want to, yeah, and when you set up, so you have not set up the monthly donation thing yet, or you will be setting it up soon, just to clarify?
Yes, it should launch sometime next week.
Okay, good. Because I will totally sign up for a monthly donation once you set it up. Um, just because, for me this is very personal. Um, just not only because I believe in Humanities Guåhan, but because uh for me this is highly frustrating. Um, Humanities councils take funding from the federal government of the United States and they pump it into small communities for historical projects, art projects, community projects, like to support nonprofits, to support local scholars. Like this is exactly the type of stuff that the federal government, whether you like whoever's in power or not, the federal government should be doing stuff like this. And the idea that it's being destroyed, clawed back, that it's ending, it's all like it's all terrible. And so for me, it's of course this should not happen. I'm hoping that this is reversed. Some people put comments saying that this is hopefully going to be reversed. This can't happen, and so on. And if you pray, whoever you pray to, hopefully that happens. But I support this because for me, it's beyond political, professional. It's also very personal. Humanities Guåhan was the projects that you do are things that I believe in, but also, when my second child, Akli'i, was born and I was unemployed, Humanities Guåhan was like, hey, we need a scholar to help with like a transitional table. And can you help? And I was like, oh yeah, I need money and I can help. And it's not a big it's not a huge project. It's not gonna, but it's something that helps the community and it helped me get by. And that's you know when I quit UOG and when I was transitioning and I was unemployed and before I started working here at the museum, I did not have a job for a few months and Humanities Guåhan was like, we need help with unincorporated. And I was like, oh, I'm unemployed. um, and so it's like, well, we have a small job, can you help us out with this? And that's what's great about these are truly community focused projects. They're small community-focused projects. And the idea that not just us, but the CNMI and 54 others, small and large, will lose this is terrible. And so people should be up in arms because this is not your favorite billionaire who's losing this money. This is your healer in your village or in your community. This is the oldest people in your town whose story may go undocumented now. This is the tensions between groups or between people in your community where a project that people have been wanting to do for a while, and there was a humanities grant that they proposed, it didn't get it, the funding was canceled. And so now, instead of bringing people together, no one may do that now because the Humanities Council, which was putting that into place to try to bring people who are on different sides of issues, isn't going to happen. And so I'm hoping that more and more people across the United States and territories, including here, see, now that it's gone, that now that it's being threatened, that it had a lot of value, and that they let senators, delegates, Congress people, they let them know that this, that don't allow this to happen. The humanities are an important part of our lives. Protect our humanities councils. And so, are there any final thoughts from CJ, from Nadine, from Elfie, or from anyone else?
I think I just want CJ or maybe Nadine to pipe in on our last big project that's coming up. Nothing micro about Micronesians.
Yeah, thank you, Alfrey, and thank you, Maget. Those words were so kind, so impactful. And it's bittersweet, but we will be doing one of our last major projects for a while. This May 2nd and 3rd, we are bringing back Tieta Productions, who was here in 2022, to do their show Nothing Micro about Micronesia, which is an original theater production written with the Micronesian communities that highlights the Micronesian experience in Hawaii, which is very relevant and relatable to us here on the island. They will be touring the show with the support of actually our friends at the NMI Humanities Council to the Flame Tree Festival next week. And then after, they're coming over to us. We'll be doing workshops with students at schools. And then we will be presenting public performances on May 2nd and 3rd. Even though it is going to be one of our last major projects, we're excited to bring this to you all and hope we can share in community together. You can find more information about that on our website and our Instagram. That's May 2nd and 3rd.
Si Jus Masi and Nadine, any final thoughts or? Okay, no, Maulika. And si Jus Masi, no hamzu todos, Potori bidan mimizu, puri comunidata. Thank you for all that you're doing for our community here. And para hamzu todos, ni umeega para umeekong o kestina episode, si Jus Masi, na fan mesngon hamzu stay.